Welcome, everybody, to Post-Message Ponderings with Vince Jeff. Are we sticking with that title?
I thought you had a good idea this week.
I don't remember what it was.
It was like a post-workout cool down.
Oh, yeah, the cool
Cool
down.
down.
The cool down.
Call it the
Gotcha.
cool down. You like that? If you do, let us know. We're still shopping for names, so if
Yeah,
you got something better,
hit us.
and you better not be criticizing if you don't have any ideas.
So I'm Vince. This is Jeff, as you all know. We're here to spend some time with you guys. We don't just want this to be a conversation between him and I, although I got some great questions for him this week. But I'd love to have your questions. I'm on YouTube and Facebook, so if it looks like I'm not paying attention to him, no, I'm just reading what you guys say. So please fire up some questions. Please make them hard. Don't throw a softball at Jeff. He likes the tough ones. So give him all the good stuff. But to get us started, I'm going to start off with Jeff. Give us a little bit of an overview of this series in your mind. We just came off this, what was it, The Trouble with Love.
Trouble with Love series. Well, researchers say that one of the greatest indicators of happiness is someone who has a secure attachment, who feels secure in the way that they're attaching with each other. That's one of the greatest indicators of happiness. So, that's the new research. We've just thought, man, if we could help people understand, number one, kind of what their attachment style is, and then move them into this place of understanding what does it feel like to be maybe more securely attached. How do we get ourselves there, and then how to get other people there. We thought, man, if we could do that and raise happiness levels in the middle, especially in the middle of all the stress that collectively we're feeling right now, we thought that would be probably one of the greatest spiritual developments we could work on in the moment.
I can't agree more. I like it.
Good.
What kind of feedback have you been getting lately? Is it starting to resonate with people? Or are they starting to feel like, yeah, you know what? That's putting a finger on what's going on for me or my friend or my partner, kids?
Well, feedback's a weird thing right now, just because we normally we get about 15 of you by the time we get to the back row. And so now we're both relying on your text and comments from our live feeds and email and phone calls. But with the stuff that we have heard back, I've had numerous people, just appreciating what we're talking about and finding it relevant, number one. I think there are some that are kind of getting tripped up, maybe trying to figure out what their attachment style is, maybe what their partner's is, and I think I could be both. Is that possible or whatever? So there's a little bit of confusion there.
Someone said to me, they're like, we should have learned this in grade school.
Yeah.
Like, less arithmetic, more this.
I couldn't agree more. I know overwhelmingly people have said this has been just so helpful, thinking deeply about this. Lots of people asking about the resources. I can tell people are wanting to dive in and learn more. So really, really good signs.
Good. Can you give us an overview of attachment as you see it, kind of the attachment system?
Yeah. So if you can think about feeling secure, you don't feel nervous. You think about someone in a relationship. If you feel secure with a person, they can leave, and you don't worry about them if they're going to come back. You don't have to worry about that. But you also are quite comfortable being close and being in different ways with different people, intimate. So being up close and not being afraid of that, but not being afraid of being far away. That is what we would describe as secure. And when you can be in that place, man, your threat system isn't firing, you're relaxed, you're in a place where you almost assume that person is going to love you and is going to be there for you. And you're not always second guessing, wondering, okay, what's going on? Is he upset? It just, you can relax. The opposite of that would be insecure, where you're either fearful of what that other person is thinking, and so you're trying to constantly cling, grab, hold them, keep them from leaving, whatever.
So that's on the wave side.
On the wave side.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side, you're like pushing them away. You're just like going, I don't know what's going on there. I'm going to go over here because I know I can control this, and I don't have to I don't have to worry about what that is about,
Mm-hmm.
and I can just soothe myself and bring my clothes. So either way, on either spectrum, on either side of secure attachment, you have this threatened state. And so I guess the attachment theory is the more we can learn certain behaviors about ourselves, what's going on, whatever, we can learn to lower the threat and move more inward toward this secure state of attachment with someone.
So you've admitted that at times in your life you've maybe had a bit of wave in you.
Hmm.
What does it feel like when that kind of wave hits you?
Well, I shared in the first week of this series probably one of the worst seasons of my life. And that was when I was married with Kathy, but early on, and I was so insecure. I had never felt that way before. Never. Like, or at least I don't remember feeling like that, not to that degree.
Okay.
As a young child, I think I had moments with my dad, but with Kathy, oh, it's a painful state.
Like, is your mind
As a
clear?
wave, no, you get all muddied, you get all foggy. As a wave, you're really not sure what you're wanting. You want to be close, and then you're angry that they're not reacting the same way, and so you're pushing them away, and then you're going, oh no, I didn't mean that. It's like that Adam Sandler movie, where he's like, oh baby, I need you, and then she says, get out of here, and then he's freaking out, or says, I don't know, whatever.
And that's where the
wave side.
that's like it's this coming and going, like connection, push you away, pull you back, push you away.
Constantly
That's what we call
in
that
and
wave
out,
side.
in and out, not really sure what they want. As far as island goes, maybe you'd be a
Yeah,
better
I'm
one
more
to.
islandy growing up. So for me, it's all about pulling away and being by myself. That just feels natural. When people get too close, without even thinking about it, you can see me reacting to them. So my poor wife, my poor wives, which maybe speaks to why this is important, huh?
For all
So,
of us.
please send in your questions. I'd love to hear from you guys. There's some people jumping on already. That's awesome. Welcome to you all.
Welcome.
One of the ones we got along the way is, I don't want to become codependent, fostering some kind of unhealthy dependence on someone to make me feel better. Can you speak to the codependency as it relates to pleasing and soothing, which was your message of like, how do you take your partner and lift them up? How do you make them feel safe and secure and then feel like really good? So how do you balance that against codependency?
Yeah, it seemed like there was, from what I've read, and I know you've read this too, but in the first half of the century, this last century, there was a lot of thinking that the happiest child is one that is free from unnecessary attachment. And so they focused a lot on trying to teach kids not to really be overly dependent. Boarding schools were common. They pull you right away from your primary caregivers and try to get you to kind of buck up. And if you could kind of be free of needing anyone to be fully happy, that would be a sign of success, or maybe a marker that you could be successful. I think later on, it's kind of that thinking has spilled out in a number of different ways, especially in addiction circles, where they talk a lot about codependency.
Okay, so how does that relate now to what you're basically saying is like taking care of your partner?
Yeah. So I guess to understand codependency, and then I'll flip it. Codependency says, look, you need to be fully whole and complete and differentiated from anyone else, and kind of be your own person. You don't want to have to need someone else for your own happiness. Attachment theory kind of flips that and says, actually, there's a lot of research that says we can, whether you know it or not, even biochemically, influence and soothe and regulate someone that's right close to you. You can trigger their hormones, you can lower their heart rate, their breathing pattern. You can do all kinds of stuff. We just naturally feel this with those that are closest to us. So this attachment thing, as opposed to codependency, says, no, actually, it's okay to become dependent on one another in relationship.
As long as you're both lifting each other up, not pulling into kind of negative patterns where it's like one's running after, or that kind of stuff. Isn't that
Sure.
that's kind of
Indestructible patterns, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, codependency would speak more to that negative spiral of pulling someone into more destructive ways of being and
Okay,
living.
I got to ask this question because I got this. This just came in on Facebook. Why is it better being an island, or why why is it that being an island sometimes seems better than being a wave? Being an island's awesome. No, no, she said sort of like it's better to be an extrovert than an introvert. It's not better. Come on.
There are no betters, right? But Chantal, I know you're an island, so
No, she's wavy.
oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, she's an introverted. Sorry, what I meant.
But Chantel, here's one of the things that's interesting, and maybe Jeff, I guess maybe as an island, can I speak to this one?
Mm-hmm.
Islands actually carry more stress around people than waves do.
Hmm.
Waves act bigger, but if you measure our hormones, we carry higher stress around people.
Hmm.
So I don't know which one's better. One's got this whole push-pull thing. The other one's got tons of stress that we hide. I think they're both really harmful.
Well, I'm sure they have some positive pieces in it. I think Stan Tack can even will go above and beyond to say, look, there are strengths to each of these different pieces, but ideally, even though I have wave tendencies, I am continually wanting to experience secure attachment. So, and I find many islands would be thinking maybe along the same line, where they want to feel less threatened or less triggered or less alone or isolated, perhaps.
Danielle responded, I feel it seems better to be wave than island. So it seems like kind of everyone's reacting to what side feels good, but it's almost like there's a circle, right? On the one end, we're secure, kind of on the end, or in the middle, we're like wave or island. Then we can also be kind of both on the negative side. So not on the positive side, but on the negative side.
Yeah, and I know it's not comparing apples to apples, but it kind of reminds me of the introvert extrovert wars of it's better to be whichever one I happen to be, you know. And I think from our own lenses we can see the benefits of who we are and what we like. We can look at someone who's very different from us and say, oof, I'm glad that's not me. I think that's a natural thinking.
One of the comments that came in during your message, at one point you said, if you have a wave partner and who's nervous about how far away you are, one of the things you can do is put a tracker on your phone and give them access to that tracking information. And somebody right away went, whoa, 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 sorry, you want to what? Do you want to clarify what you mean by that? Is that like, crazy controlling people get to put trackers on their partner's phones and Jeff says that's okay? Is that what you're getting?
I could have offered a few caveats on that. It's funny. So you can share your location. I don't know how it works on Android, but with iPhone, we can share location. And as a wave, and this might sound freaky weird, and I've freaked out my wife actually once, that I just love to know where she is. In fact, one time I hadn't seen her all day, I hadn't even talked to her, and I came home, and she wasn't home, and I was like, whoa, normally she's home right now. But I had to go down to the hospital, so I was just stopping in, and then I was going to go down and see someone at the hospital. So I looked on my phone and found out where she was. She happened to be at this clothing store that was on the way.
Okay.
Now, unfortunate timing, because she thought I was busting her. Here I thought I was doing something really cool. Like I just showed up in the store, and she was like, what are you doing here? And instantly, she's more islandy. She was like,
oh, totally. That would freak me out. Like, what are you
She's
doing?
Like, you're coming in here trying to check up on what I'm buying. And I'm like, I was just coming in to say she didn't buy it, and she still thinks I was, up to.
Okay,
Anyways,
so should anyone have access to anyone's phone, or is that like something you agree on as a couple and say, hey, this works for us?
Yeah, hey, look, it's not like, hey, Jeff said you have to do this, so you got to give me your. No, I think it's like Kathy's comfortable with me knowing where she is, and I'm with her. I'm just like, hey, here's my location. That doesn't work for everyone. Our boys, nope, you don't know, and that's fine, and that wouldn't work for everyone. But I know for me, sometimes just going, oh, that's where she is. She's down the other end. Oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Sometimes it even saves me calling her. Which I would be tending to do, and she might be in the middle of something, so I can look and go, oh yeah, that's right. She was going to that meeting. All right, on. Does that make sense?
Again,
I don't know if that sounds freaky.
No, if you have a wave side, you're scared of being abandoned. So knowing where somebody is, that they haven't left you altogether, that's really
Mm-hmm.
valuable.
Yeah.
One of the things
Yeah.
I know I've had to learn when dealing with people I love who are waves is I often have plans ahead with them. Hey, I'll call you next week, or hey, let's get together. Let's put it on the calendar for next Thursday. We'll get together,
Mm-hmm.
or even next month Thursday. Let's get together,
Mm-hmm.
so that in their minds they're like, ah, there's a coming
There
together time
definitely
again.
is a coming together. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
to help. Does that
Yeah.
resonate?
Yeah. I could see that. I
Hmm.
could see that. I wouldn't rank myself as a high wave, but I can tell that these little tendencies come from that sense of I just love to know where she is,
Hmm.
and yeah.
Do our, so this is a great question from Nicole. Do our primitives and ambassadors fire differently depending on if we're a wave or an island?
Hmm. Why,
Absolutely.
why don't you speak to that? Because you did that message. You spent a little more time
Yeah, you,
firing up on that.
if I can use that metaphor, and if I don't want to push it too far, you probably will have primitives in you that are called wave or island. So I have a lot of island primitives in me that are constantly looking for people coming too close to me, demanding things of me, pushing me to do things I don't want to do. And I'm guessing you're saying there's a few little wave primitives inside of you that are watching for distance and body language and tone of voice and distance and where are. So yeah, absolutely. In fact, one of the things you can do with people in your life, your kids, friends, partners, is to understand those primitives. Understand that that's a wave primitive and it's going to be reacting to things like turning your head away, going away and not saying where you are,
Hmm.
those kinds of things. So absolutely. And if you can figure those out from Jeff's message, if you can figure out what their primitives look like, your ability to please and soothe them just goes through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not constantly hitting that
The
like freak out.
vulnerability.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm going to the store. I'll be back by 4 o'clock. Give me a shout if you need to. That's enough to be like, oh, okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff's primitives go.
Mm-hmm.
I'll jump to one more question. I'm not sure what I am. I kind of relate to both types of attachment, but then not really. How does how do you how do you answer that question? Like, what is somebody?
I think, and someone had written me after Sunday, just saying, um, it would be beneficial if you could just revisit the fact that this is a spectrum. I hit it in the first week, but it begs to be repeated that you you are not just one thing. You're probably a collection of, we've spoken specifically about waves and islands. Stan Tacken, if you start reading his books that we've been recommending, you'll find he talks about anchors too, which is really kind of the embodiment of kind of secure attachment. You will find probably a whole bunch of different behavior patterns within you that would fall into each of those categories. In fact, the majority of people would probably be within the anchor environment,
At least in
more
some
secure.
relationships, yeah.
And so you might not find yourself really identifying strongly with one side or the other. You might find yourself kind of in the middle, and that's fine too. I don't think anything really serves us well by labeling people. Oh, even like what I just did. Oh, I think she's a this or that. No, you're probably we have leanings in certain ways, and so don't be fooled if you can't really kind of look at yourself and go, man, I am to a T that person. You're somewhere in the middle, and it's one big continuum, big spectrum.
There's also a lot of research that says you're different with different people, different relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe as a parent, you're one. As a
Mm-hmm.
partner, you're different.
Mm-hmm.
As a son or a daughter, you're different. Depending on what relationship and depending on what they are, you'll react to them and kind of you'll have this kind of span.
Well, and I think that speaks to just how people can affect us. Like they talk about this buffering effect for people who really are secure in themselves. They are just natural anchors. They've been raised in an environment where they've just never had to they've taken love for granted. Love was never withheld. They never really felt an overwhelming sense of abandonment or neglect. So they feel very secure. And the effect they can have on someone who is a high island or a wave can be powerful. They can just provide so much security that, yeah, when you're around them, you just go, man, I just feel like I can so relax. I'm just myself when I'm with this person. Yeah, it's true. You can feel differently with different people. Some will ignite your insecurities like crazy, get you firing in certain ways, just things they say or do. So, yeah, I think that's very true.
There's a comment, Jeff, just call her. Yes, tracking your partner's creepy.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Don't share your location. All right.
Somebody, Danielle said, great, I have high anxiety, and as I've lost family members in an accident, my family understands that I need to know where they are. That's one of those things that she understands her primitives and says, hey guys, like this one's really sensitive to me. If you want to throw me a solid and have me feel calm, so that's great.
Thanks, Danielle. It's true.
Vonda comes back, I have no issues with my partner tracking me.
Thank you, Vonda. Thank you. All the trackers out there, unite. All right. There's nothing wrong with this. Nothing to hide.
Someone was asked, I was wondering if you and Vince could expand on attachment and avoidance in the context, I think what they're saying is in the context of parenting for teens. I'm curious how this theory plays out in teenage years between parents and kids as children push the boundaries of their independence.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that was a good question. I saw that come in on the weekend, and it's got me thinking a lot about it, raising three boys now. It's weird they hit this teenage season, and you can go from them wanting to be so close. You go, oh, I've got my anchor son here that just loves this intimacy and loves his independence or whatever, and all of a sudden they just don't want any intimacy. It's like pushing you away, going, don't touch me, don't come near me. I want to be with my friends. Drop me off there. Don't call me, I'll call you. Don't track my phone. All that. So it's a complicating time as a parent wanting to encourage kind of this healthy level of closeness with your kids and encouraging them to come close. I don't know. The teenage years are so confusing. I'm still looking back after three boys, each of them reacting so differently in that window. It was hard. I think if anything, though, being able to role model as parents that healthy level of security where you're willing to trust in appropriate levels, give them that room, don't smother them. I think that is a tendency, It's very tricky as they need their independence for some parents. And I won't say typically mothers, but I've watched it a lot in moms.
One of the other things of this puzzle is if you have abandonment tendency, if you're a bit wavy as a parent, your kid pulling away and differentiating from you, which is healthy, is really hard, I'm guessing. Suddenly, you're best friends and you're really connected, and all of a sudden they're pulling away and going, well, no, I want to hang out with my friends, not you. And it's like, well, you're literally abandoning me.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah.
That's got to be a tough space.
Well, and I tell you, if you're, a wave as a parent and you're feeling your kid pushing you away, it's hard. The instincts come out where you're wanting to cling, you want to grab on and hold them, and which pushes them away further. They start getting resentful. They start feeling like you're just not giving them their room. So, that's why this work that we're talking about, understanding your primitives, what's happening when your kid all of a sudden doesn't want to give you a kiss at night, or doesn't want you to come up and spend time with them at her bed at night and tell you her stories or whatever that is. All of a sudden, some can really get wigged out by that and start guilting and shaming their kids, but not even noticing it. So being aware of what's going on and giving that kid that room, that space as they differentiate, I think can be one of the most beautiful things you can give them, and teaches them that healthy anchor. I can be close, but then I want my space, and we're okay with that.
We don't actually, most of the research says kids don't really settle into who they are until they're in their early 20s. That's when their brains start to settle.
Really? Yeah.
So through their teenage years, most of what they're doing is just kind of biological differentiation. We know these things. But it plays out for the parents most often
Mostly.
in the attachment. Once they get into their 20s, then you start getting them settling in and going, oh, okay, this is how they're playing out. Now, I'm guessing you can see it. You're a parent. You probably see flavors of it through their lives.
Oh, I remember certain seasons where some of my kids were quite young, like 10 years old. And I didn't know. I didn't have any of this language now.
Yeah.
But they needed soothing.
Yeah.
And I just, I was so pissed off in the moment. I'm just like, no, you're going to bed.
You're
And
not
they're
getting
like, please,
sued.
I'm sorry. Let's just make this right. And I'm like, no, you're going to bed. We're not making right. You could have done that an hour ago, blah, blah, whatever. So I'm not saying that it was fully developed, but you could see tendencies of it. And I think there was just that craving for security.
Yeah.
I think that's needed all the way through.
I heard a ninja level story just the other day, and unfortunately it's neither me nor Jeff, but a
They
mom.
aren't often mine.
She felt this insane love for her kid, which I'm guessing parents do. I don't have kids, but she just said I had this amazing like moment where I was just like, I just so love my kid, and so he walks into the room and she's like, "Son, I love you," and he kind of goes like this, and and she is like ninja. She goes, "Whoa, okay, what just happened there?" And he doesn't really say a whole lot. She's like, "Did that feel good?" And he's kind of like, she's like, "Can we try that again? Let's just back up." And she says, "Okay, let me just tone my voice down.
Wow.
Let me just change how I say it. Let me just actually, instead of like yelling into your face, let me just say,
Talk to the side.
son, I
Yeah.
really love you."
Yeah.
And all of a
And-
sudden he could hear it.
Wow.
And I was like, holy
Wow.
crap, that is
Yeah.
ninja level.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Like when we talked on Sunday about doing the things that actually make them feel good. So there's the things that make them feel bad, and then there's the things that make them feel good. And when you can crack some of those codes, you can tell whatever you just did, they just responded in their own way, whatever that is. Oh man, that therein lies the gold. You remember that moment.
So we talked a little bit about wave parents with kids differentiating, pulling them away as they're teenagers. Great question from Vonda. How about being an island with little kids that don't leave you alone for a minute? So as an island, you want your space, and this kid's always on
Oh,
you.
Vonda, I feel for you. Oh, all you parents with young kids. We were just saying, we wish we could, you know, deliver bottles of wine to all you parents with kids right now who are now finding out you're schooling your kids until September. All that. I just remember that season in life when the kids, when they were awake, it was 24/7 around you. And I think there is a need for boundaries. I think there is a need sometimes to be able to teach your kids, hey, I don't have to be at your beck and call every second of the day. I think that's healthy to be able to work with them on that and say, hey, look, within this window, you're going to play and I'm going to go and do some stuff, and then we're going to come back and we're going to stick to that. And if you can set that boundary well, even if it's in small chunks and it keeps growing, you can train your kids to understand that you too need your space. And it's healthy for them, because if they don't grow up understanding space and boundaries in that way, it will be difficult for them in other relationships as well. So that'd be one thing I would say. But again, I'm not the parental expert, and every story is different. Let me just put that massive caveat on that.
My only comment would be, and it's not a parent, but I say to tons of parents who are primary caregivers, so the people who stay home, unhealthy you makes unhealthy family. So I know right now it's this idea of I give everything to my kids, and then if there's anything left over, then I take care of me. Maybe it's time to flip that and say, actually, I get half an hour for me, or an hour, and then I'm going to recharge and become a healthy, great, secure, good, recharged human being, and then I can parent well. Just a thought.
You know what? I think there's gold right there. I think there are many parents right now over the last few weeks when everything has been turned upside down, and you got your husband home. Everyone's at home right now, and it's chaos, and no one has their space, and that probably you need to figure out very quickly what you're going to need to do to stay healthy mentally. Find the space. If you have to, just go out for a quick walk, do whatever you got to do. But yeah, you start running into the red zone. The primitives are just right there,
and
just
your
ready
kids
to just
literally
go.
can feel that off you.
Oh, absolutely.
So let me
And
transition there, because there's a couple great comments. Jeff already seeing a difference in how my husband and I are getting along. Now by seeing how my wave crashes into his island.
wow,
That's fantastic.
fantastic to hear.
Um,
It's awesome.
You spent a lot of time in your message talking about what you can say. What about what you can do? Can you speak more to the kind of, Because it almost seems like, I can say to, to my wave friends, hey, I'm never going to leave you, and then walk away, and they're going to be like, screw you, Clausen. So how does our bodies and the way we act impact this whole pleasing and soothing piece?
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think of an example that might reflect on what we could do. Like, so, I mean, we're social distancing now, so I don't even know that that's a good example. I was just going to kind of draw a picture of a party where, maybe, your partner is worried about being abandoned in that space. And, I watched a couple a while back at a function, and we had been talking a lot about this stuff, so I was especially kind of tuned in, but I know that she was nervous about being abandoned. And he grabbed onto her hand, he looked at her, and he said, "You're staying right here with me. You're not going anywhere." And I could just tell, she was like, I was right there when he said it. And man, I don't know how many times Kathy and I've gotten separated and left her kind of going, ooh,
Jarvis.
I learned so much in that one moment watching that girl's face and the relief that came over. And so I think there's probably little things, eye contact. That's a good question. I haven't really poured over that. Do you have
So,
ideas? Jump in.
Again, just having to learn how to be with waves. One of the things I've learned is the more you can get your faces closer together, it seems better. I've watched couples all the time where one's a wave, one's an island. I'll say to the island, just go closer to that person. Put your face closer to them. And at some point, all of a sudden, the island or the wave just kind of lights up. You can just tell they kind of feel there's something amazing there. The thing I tell the waves to the islands
about
is
the islands.
be very careful of how you approach them. If you come right at their face, you're going to get a bad reaction. And almost every island I know doesn't do well with that.
Wow.
But
so
you know what? Come in from the
kind of
side.
at an angle? Or?
Yeah, come in from the side. You'll often see us like standing. We stand like this. It's like, this is how we visit. This is way too intense. This feels better. It's like, okay, yeah, I can kind of look out the
You're
side
a
of
little
it.
too close right now, regardless. No, hey, social distance.
I apologize. I apologize. Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. The number of times I've violated that space for you.
I thought you were saying with Kathy. Yeah, there's a couple of people saying schedule. I heard one mother who had a daughter who was pretty wavy. She would say, okay, you need some time. We're setting the countdown on the stove. They had a timer, like old school timer. Like tick, tick. She'd set it for 20 minutes, and she'd be like, okay. And then the daughter could just know she had like all her mom's attention for 20 minutes. But when the thing binged, it was like, okay, we're done. But for that 20 minutes, she got everything. And she's like, I loved that 20 minutes. I thought that was so great ideas out there, you guys.
Wow, that's really good.
Any other questions you want to send my way for Jeff? Again, be hard on him. He can take it. Last question, books, resources, things you'd recommend.
Well, I put 3 or 4 books up on the show notes for podcasting. Realized later that for those that were just watching the Facebook Live, you probably wouldn't have seen it. We built this whole series from this book here, Wired for Love by Stan Tatkin. That is a gem. Now, some people asked, hey, is all the primitive ambassador, Wave Island, is everything in there? I think you can pretty much learn most of the stuff that we've talked about from this one book.
Yeah.
There are other books. So there's an audiobook that you turned us all onto initially, and that was by Stan Tatkin called Your Brain on Love. And it's an audiobook, very thorough. It doesn't go through the primitives and ambassadors.
No.
That's newer stuff that he brings out in this book, but it's very good. I've really loved this book called Attached, and just because it is really hands-on, goes into each of the specific types of attachment and gives you just tons of stories to illustrate. It really came alive for me. That I really enjoyed.
One
Sue
caveat,
Johnson.
though.
Yeah.
On that attached book,
Yeah.
in their minds, you can't be an island with a wave. They basically say end the relationship. I'm not sure that all the current research says that, but just be aware. If you kind of realize, if you're reading that book and you're going, wait, I need to break up with so-and-so, just don't fret. There is ways
I
around it.
maybe didn't read it that way, but
Yeah.
maybe he comes out in one part and really is emphatic. I didn't see that.
Someone just put a comment, make a plan before going to a party. Have a signal or phrase and know that you'll have each other's backs in groups. That's gold.
Gold,
And
gold.
again, she's a wise woman.
Hey, some couples don't need that. You show up and she's going one way and he's going the other, or they're, he and her, whatever. But for those that are insecure in that, that is a gem of advice.
Great books.
I haven't been following the
Someone's
comments.
making comments on how I got close to you. Again, I apologize. I got swept up in the moment. What can I say?
Is
So
that
what do we
it?
do when we invited the ambassadors to negotiate with others' primitives? Yeah, that's a good one. What do you do when you're trying to bring your ambassador into play, but all you're getting is their primitives?
All you're getting is that person's primitives?
Yeah, so you're trying to negotiate, you're trying to do, kind of logical work, and they're just freaking out.
Does it, I guess I have a couple questions. If they're an island, does it make sense to just, well, no, if they're an island, likely they would be running, right? Right. So, okay, so let's say they're doing that. Let's say the island is shutting down, doesn't want to talk. Would it make sense in that moment, rather than trying to force them out, to just say, hey, should we just table this and come back maybe tonight or tomorrow, or what would be a good
Back
time?
off.
Back off.
Like, it's easy. Just, again, physically or psychologically, back off.
Yeah. If they're a wave, if they're freaking out and you're trying to talk to them and you're trying to be calm and whatever, sometimes just looking at them. Now, again, it would depend on the relationship. Like if it was,
We're assuming maybe partners or...
okay, so let's assume partners for
Okay.
now. If your partner is freaking out, so insecure about maybe like feeling like you're going to leave or abandon, or you're away, with waves you can do a lot with your words. Things like just saying, look at, hey, I know right now you're thinking a lot. I'm not leaving you. All right, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'll just be over here. I'm going to wait for you, but I'm not leaving.
Do you notice how you right always reach out?
Hmm.
Totally would work. Let's start wrapping things up.
Yeah.
So let's just take a complete shift. So that was the message.
Yeah.
Really loved your guys' comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
them.
you for weighing in, everyone.
If there's anything else you want to talk about, please email us, Jeff or Vince at friendchurch.ca. I was thinking of doing a book club around the book.
Talk about that.
So if you're interested in doing a kind of an in-depth study of that, Wired for Love, I'd love to just reach out to me, Vince at friendchurch.ca. Let's see if we can get enough interest to get some people.
If there's enough.
Yeah, we have some time right now, right? You got some relational conflict because you haven't had any
If
time
you're
alone.
just finishing Ozark and now you're wondering, okay, what next?
How do I kill my partner? That's what Ozark. So yeah, but let's talk kind of what we're seeing broader. Friend Church is about making the world better. So first we do it around learning around attachment. Where have you seen people kind of in this era, this time of craziness, insanity? What have you seen people kind of stepping up, taking water? What have you seen?
Well, I have to say I've seen some amazing acts of kindness in this season. In a time when there's just so much scarcity and freak out, and to see people that are going above and beyond. I saw one woman on Instagram who had taken a bottle of wine to her friend and couldn't be close. So she brought a bottle and they poured a glass of wine and she enjoyed it from inside, and her friend enjoyed it from inside, and she sat outside and she was just there with her, and to see the post from the other woman who was taking a picture of her friend sitting outside. It was incredible. Just that sense of, man, I can't be with you, but I'm going to be with you, and we're going to be close. I just thought, that's so cool.
I've heard so many stories of people offering, hey, does anyone need me to drive? Grocery shopping, I'm feeling healthy. What can I do? What can I do? It's incredible to see our community to step up and go, hey, this is crazy time, but it's just a time that gives me more opportunity to take water.
I was in the store the other day, and I watched one person stop the line and really loudly looked at the teller and said, I don't know about you guys, but I am grateful that this woman is putting herself out here so that I can buy my toilet paper and everything else that I need. How about you? And everyone down the line, they all started clapping. And watching what happened to that woman, I thought, oh, if we could just take a moment being aware of those people that don't have the luxury of holding up in their house, only going out when it's absolutely needed once a month, and then some of these people, they're trying to figure out what to do with their kids at home, all these things, and there they are. And I just think we could be so impactful if we could just stop, look them in the eyes, and thank them for what they're doing. And I've seen that, but we can do more.
Let's close up with talking about the next series. It starts this week with me, but again, I get to talk about it in a couple of days, so why don't you give it the pitch and say what we're going to talk about, why we care, Apocalypse.
Yeah, so it's a new series called Apocalypse, Finding Your New Normal, learning from our ancestors who've been in this situation before where life was turned upside down on them. So we're going to dive into what our ancestors had to say about times like this that we find ourselves in when we're scrambling to figure out what's next. We had a whole nother series lined up, and we just, in the middle of all this stuff, we just said, wow, we're processing so much. We're sitting and talking through so much. We're thinking, I think we could widen the conversation out and talk about the things that lead to healthy people and peace within when the storm is raging on the outside.
And ways to navigate through something we've never experienced before. Like, we've never experienced events at this scale before.
Right.
Or at least I haven't. Maybe
No.
you have, but like, this is...
I'm not that much older, all right?
Folks, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this. It's been incredible to see your comments, see you interacting, see what you're doing with this. I love that. Thank you, Jeff, for your thoughts.
Thank you, Vince, for doing this.
This has been an amazing series. I love every time we get to talk about this stuff. And again, if you can use this to make your world a little bit better, that's why we do this stuff. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see you Sunday.